Hi there, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand, and today I'd like to show you how to make this cute card that opens up two different ways, and it has a slot there for a little tag, so you can pull that out and use that as a gift tag, but you can also use it as a gift card holder, so you can pop a gift card in there and hide it behind the tag to give somebody. So it works two ways: gift card holder, card, and a tag. It's actually got three things that you can do with it. So I'm going to show you how to make one of these. Today's project, we're going to use the Tidings of Christmas paper. We're going to use the Poinsettia Petals stamps and one of the little dies from there. We're going to also use the Tailor-made tags, the Wintry 3D embossing folder, the one with the branches on it, and one of the dies, this large die from the Forever Flourishing dies set. So I'll tell you everything you need and show you how to make one. So to get started, you need your card base. Now, it's a standard card base in the long form. So if you're cutting your card stock, so here in New Zealand we have A4 card stock. Other countries you might have letter size. So cut it the long way and score it down the middle. So for here in New Zealand, that means you would do your cut at 10.5 centimeters, and then you would score it roughly at 14.85 centimeters in the center. And then 1/2 of it, you're going to want to score the center of that. So this half here in New Zealand is 14.85, so I scored it at roughly about 7.5. You could do it a bit further if you want. When you score it, you just need to make sure that when you fold it over, that it doesn't go over the center line there. If it is too long when you've scored it and folded it over, just trim off a little off this edge so it will fold down nicely. This card here, I'm actually going to have going the other direction, the new card that I'm going to show you today. So then you also need a piece of designer series paper cut to fit the inside of the card, so just slightly smaller. So for this one, it's 1/2 centimeter smaller than the section I'm going to use. And with this lovely Tidings of Christmas designer series paper, there's lots of different ones to choose from. So lots of different pieces that you can choose to use, either side of them, depending on what type of card you want to use. So for the card I'm doing today, the base is the Evening Evergreen. If you want your cardstock to match your designer series paper, have a look at the back, and it tells you what colors are used in the paper. Not every color is on every page, but when you find the piece that you want to use, look at what colors are in there. So with this one, Evening Evergreen is in there. So we've got Evening Evergreen, we've got Soft Succulent, and then you can see a little bit of, see if that focuses. Come on, focus. There we go. Aha. And Sahara Sand. So this one has the Soft Succulent and Sahara Sand. The other piece you need is for the front section here. So you need a piece of DSP cut for there. So in this piece, I've got the other colors mentioned. So I've got the Evening Evergreen, I've got the Cherry Cobbler. The little dots, I don't know if you can see, that's actually the Misty Moonlight, but there's not a lot there, so I'm not going to pick that up in my card. And of course the basic white background, and then the little dots here, that's the Soft Succulent. So when you're making your cards, designing your cards, look at what colors you're going to use for either your inks or your designer series paper to determine what bases. So those are the ones for here. So you've got one piece that'll be going on the inside, one piece that'll fit on your folded section. Then you need to cut a contrasting color. So this is Soft Succulent. And this one, I cut it at 8.5 centimeters, and it's, I think, 24 actually I think 25 centimeters long, and then scored it at 12.5 in the middle. And the reason I came up with that size to put in the card is because this embossing folder here, let me get it out, this embossing folder here is only 8.5 centimeters wide. So to get full effect of the embossing, I couldn't have it more than 8.5 centimeters because otherwise the edges would not get embossed. So I made it the exact width of this embossing folder. And I made it shorter to fit within the card. So once I decided the width, then I determined the height. So I've got that. Then you also need, for the inside of that card, you need a piece of basic white cardstock cut down 0.5 centimeter smaller than the dimensions on the inside to fit in there. You need a couple scrap pieces of Whisper White that will fit the largest and the smallest tag die, because you'll be using that, and a scrap of any of the other DSP sections to fit the second to smallest. So there's 4 sizes there, so this would be the second size up for that one there. And then you're going to use the inside DSP to cut out your 4th tag. You'll also need some embellishments, which I'll show you later, and we'll talk about those as I create the card. So first thing you want to do is emboss your folder, emboss your card. And when you emboss it, you don't want it to go over the edge. So just put it right up to the edge there, as far as you can see the embossing, right up to the edge of your card, so your card's sticking out. And as you can see, it is the exact width of this embossing folder. And then I'll just close it like that, put it through the folded side first when you put it through your embossing machine. And so I'll go run that through now. And just to let you know, where it has the name Stamping Up, that part will be raised up, so that's embossed. And the opposite side, where it's got where it's made and all that, that is going to be depressed, so that's going to push in, and so that'll be debossed. So that helps you determine which side up to put your embossing folder. But because I could flip this card and fold it the other way if I embossed it wrong, it's not that critical here. The other thing I'm going to go and do is the die cutting. So I'm going to get out my tags, and I'm going to use all 4 of the square topped ones. Well, kind of straight edge, sort of square top. So the little one, I need a white tag because that's where the words are going to be placed on. And then the big one, I also want a white tag, but I'm going to die cut this twice because I'm also going to put it in the center of the back piece and die cut it, so that I'll have that for my tag. And the reason I'm doing a white piece is because otherwise the back of that tag will show the back of the designer series paper, and this is quite thin, so backing it with another piece of cardstock will make it thicker, as well as that'll give room for somebody to write. So I'll just show you on the original one. See, there's all 4 of the tags there, and this one has white on the back, so you can write a message on the back there, and you don't see the background of the DSP. Whereas this one here, you can see the background. Okay? And the other, so I'm going to cut that. Those 2 will be there. One of the white ones. This piece is for your spare DSP. And I need, after I emboss that, I'm going to cut out the die in the background there. So I'm going to use that. Now it won't matter, those cut out pieces, because they're going to be covered, so that will be covered with my white cardstock. So I'll go away and do that, and then I'll come back and show you all the pieces. Okay, so I've done all that. I've die cut the big tag from the center of the background paper. I've die cut a white piece That will go on the back of that tag. I've die cut that small piece, and this one I'm going to stamp on. And so from this section here, I did the embossing of the front, and then I die cut a piece from the inside, which you won't see because it will be covered up with that cardstock. And that one will fit right in there. And this section here will be covered up by that. So when you are die cutting a piece that's going to be covered up, make sure that you center it as best you can so it's not too close to the edges so it won't be seen. Okay, so let's do some stamping and then we'll stick things together. Now I've already gone and die cut the other elements for the card. So I've die cut the big piece here, the big branch, because I think it looks similar to that green one there in the Evening Evergreen. And then I ran it through the subtle embossing folder to just give it a bit of texture. My original one, I didn't do that. And so that one is just plain. And I thought it looked more interesting with a bit of texture on it. And the other items I've already gone and cut are 2 poinsettias. Now these little poinsettias here are done with cherry cobbler. Those are from the Pretty Pillowbox die set. So there's 2 different size little flowers, and they kind of look like poinsettias. So I cut those in cherry cobbler, and then I used the die from the poinsettia set. So I used the poinsettia dies, and there are a couple dies in there that look like poinsettias, and they have a bit of texture, so you can see the texture there. But those 2 are the exact same size. So I cut that one in the Evening Evergreen to give it the look of leaves behind the poinsettia. I've already also gone and used this die from the poinsettia set and cut out one piece in the succulent. What was our other color? The Sahara sand. And again, use embossing, subtle embossing folder to give it some texture. And then I did one with our silver foil and gave it some texture. My original card, you can see it right there. That was with the specialty paper that was free with Celebration, and Celebration is finished now, so you can't get that paper. So I'm showing you another way to do it without that paper. And so there's the flower there that I've cut those dies, and then the big one there. The other thing you'll need is some ribbon. So I've already gone and pre-colored. So if you don't have the right color ribbon, which I didn't have cherry cobbler ribbon, so I've gone and used my dark cherry cobbler Stampin' Blends, because this is an alcohol-based marker, so you can use that and it'll be permanent. And I colored onto the white, what is this one called? Glitter Organdy ribbon. So that's the white glitter organdy ribbon, and I colored it with the dark cherry cobbler. I've already tied the bow because doing that on camera is a bit difficult. So then I colored it, and you can see a bit of the glitter, but that's the same exact ribbon, just added color with one of my Stampin' Blends. The other ribbon that I'll be using is straight from the In Color Evening Evergreen In Color sheer ribbon. So you can get this open weave ribbon in all the current In Colors. So I'll either go with that, or I might go with the soft succulent. I haven't decided yet for the tag. So those are all the parts ready. Let's just do a bit of stamping. I'll just move those aside for a minute. So I'm going to stamp on that, and then I'm going to stamp the words on the inside. So with the stamping, I'm going to just put on the inside, I'm going to put Merry Christmas in Evening Evergreen. So these stamps come from the Poinsettia Petals stamp set. So there's lots of different sayings that go with that. So we'll do Merry Christmas. I'm going to offset it because I'm going to put some other stamps on here. Well, that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to use the same color to stamp my tag. I could have stamped the tag first and then die cut it. Might have been a good idea. Well, we'll see if I can get. So the tag's going to be coming in this direction. So I want the words to be going this way. And let's see if I can fit that on there. I'm using a different saying for the front of this card. So this is a thank you card. There we go. Oh, that looks lovely. So this one, thank you for making this a wonderful season. And that's all the evening evergreen, so we'll put that away. So now we're going to do soft succulent. So I'm going to use this stamp here because it kind of mimics the berries here in that image there. So I'm going to stamp that. Just checking my sample one. Yep, that looks good. There, and bring out a bit of color with my cherry cobbler. So the cherry cobbler, I'm going to do the berries. I could just leave it like that, or I could use my pen to color in the berries. But I'll use my cherry cobbler now. My cherry cobbler needs to be re-inked, but I haven't got my new ink yet, so I might have to stamp this more than once. So you just need to, because it's photopolymer and see-through, this is what multi-step stamps are, and you just need to line it up. I'm trying to figure out which way. Oh, that way. So you just line it up over the berries, and I can see through the berries, and so I can just go straight down on the berries. There we go. Now I could have done the berries first and then done the outline stems. Either way would work. Okay, so that's all the stamping we're going to do. Put our inks away. Now, before I stick the card together, one other thing I forgot to mention. So in order to be able to put the tag in, we have to cut a slit there. Now you could use, if you have a blade, you could use a blade to cut there, or you could try to cut it with your scissors. But I find the Stampin' Trimmer is the best thing for that because, let's see, can you see that? There we go. With the cutting blade, you can see straight through. So I scored that at 7.5 centimeters. So if I line up the 7.5 centimeters up there, then I know the score line is right in the center of the cutting blade. And then what you can do is you can just slide your blade up part way, not to the very end, and then just cut from one point to the other point, and that will give you a little slit in there. Now I'll leave it flat to cut. To determine how much to cut that, you can use your tag to let you know basically how far you want to cut it. So see where my tag is, I need to be able to slot it in there. So I want it just above there and just below there. So you can use your tag as a guide. But I need to line it up again to determine where you want to cut it. And it's better to cut it slightly on the inside of it so it's not seen so much on the outside, as long as there's an area to slip in there. So I can slide that up, and then the cutting of it, there's a little mark on the edge there. I'll pull it up in a second for you to see, that shows where the actual blade is. So I know the blade's just above that point. And holding that down, I'll just slide my tag out, so I just still have my tag as a guide. But I'm not going to cut on my tag, so I've slid it out a bit. And push down and slide till you get to just beyond the end of your tag. Okay? Now, pull it up so you can see. So see the markings on there? That little line there and the little line here and the arrow shows you exactly where the blade is. So the blade will cut right where those lines are. It's not going to cut either side of those lines. It's going to cut exactly where the lines are. And as you can see, I cut right there. I cut it a bit on the other side. So now my tag will slide in this way. Okay. Now I'm just going to give it one more little cut, and that will just slightly to the other side of it, and that will give me a better opening. So, and then I'll just use my snips to cut the edge off. So just slide it in again, and now I'll just move it over slightly. And I know I can see where my cut originally was. I know you can't see it on the camera up there. Yep. So now I've ended up with a cut. Two little slits either side, and I'm just going to use my snips to cut that section out to make the little hole. Okay. There's my snips. So I'll just use the snips to cut that little section out. And cut that section out there. Okay, don't need the hole to be that big, but for this demonstration, I made it much bigger. And that way, we'll have room for the tag to slip in, as well as the gift card. And so if you are doing a gift card and have one handy, you can use that to check. So I can check how wide it is with the gift card, and if it's not wide enough, just cut it wider. Of course, doing this on camera, it's not sliding as easily. There we go. Yeah, so gift card fits in there just perfectly. All right. So now we can stick things together. So on the inside, normally I would use tear and tape, but for to make it quicker on film, I'm just going to use my Tombow. So just a little bit around the edge. Don't worry about the center, it will be covered up. Now this is where, if you have directional paper, make sure you put it the correct direction up. To me, this looks like it's all going that direction. Also, if you have directional paper, just be aware how you're cutting it to fit your card. There we go. And then we can put our words on the... Nope. Almost did the wrong thing. The next one is for the green. But I want to put some color on that first, so I'll put this designer series paper down. Covers up that front section. And the other thing I want to do is I want to glue the white cardstock to the back of this, because this is very thin. And so because there's little bumps, little holes in the edge, decorative, and if you turn it over, they look depressed. Okay, so if you glue it directly onto itself, exactly the same, you're going to have little bumps sticking up at the back. So it's better just to flip your card over and glue it together that way. And so you have the depressed, like little dimples there, and you also have the dimples on the other side. So I'm just going to glue that in place. Just don't want to put too much close to the hole. We don't want it to ooze out. And I'll glue that in place. Making sure the dimples are going the right way around. I also find using the liquid glue is good for this because you can wiggle it into place. Just going around making sure all the edges are nice and firm. So now that's a much thicker piece of cardstock. Oh, I forgot I was going to stamp on this, and I also want to put some color on that section there. So I'm just going to get a piece of scrap paper out. So these two need some color added to them. And I need one more stamp. So I'd forgotten about that. So I'm going to use it's kind of it's like a little branchy stamp to put some color onto this piece because it's a bit bland without color on it. I'm going to do that in soft succulent, and I'm going to add some color onto this to bring up the impression better. So with this, just ink it up. I'm doing the same color as the cardstock, so it's not going to be too dark or obvious, but I'm just going to stamp a bit. Will fade a bit afterwards. So I could have stamped this first, but because it was on this piece, I didn't want to risk getting any ink where I don't want it to be. So just stamp up however you like, just randomly around the whole thing. I'll bring it up to the camera in a minute and show you how it looks. And when you're doing something like this, feel free to turn your stamp around so you get different impressions and images in different parts. Okay, so that's that part stamped. It just makes it a bit more interesting. So there's the tag. I just randomly stamped those images, which are similar to some of the background ones and the rest of the card. And so for here, I'm going to use my blending brush and a bit of Evening Evergreen, which is the background cardstock. And I'm just going to gently rub it in circles. So we'll have a look first. So that's the plain look. Okay, that's just the impression straight on the soft succulent cardstock. I just stamp off so I don't have too much, and I come in from the edges, so again I don't have too many dark areas. Now you might not be able to see how it looks from there, but I'll bring it up close to the camera when I'm done. And so just holding the back of the brush from a distance, I'm not going to give too much pressure on. And so I'm doing circles to try to catch the edges from the different parts of the embossed section, because that's what the color is going to stick to, is the embossed part sticking up. You don't want to push too hard, but going in circles, I'll catch the different edges, and it will give a better impression. You'll be able to see the branches or the pine needles better. Okay. And the reason I put the scrap paper is so I can rub off the edges, as well as have a part to press over. Okay. I think that's looking pretty good. Might not be able to see much from where you are. Now that looks quite dark, but it's not actually that dark. And you can rinse out your embossing, your blending brushes, and they clean up pretty well, but they will stain. But the stain will dry and won't affect your other ones. So now, if you have a look, see it's a bit darker, so it brings out the color a bit more. Okay. Now we can finish sticking things together. So now I'll put that center that on the inside. So just pop the glue on the edges there. And then just close it so I can get a better effect. I can see the center better. So I'm going to center that, making sure I'm opening it the right way. That's correct. Because that's going to close that way. Well, no, it's going to close over that way, but you want to be able to see it. Okay, and then we're just going to pop the glue on this part here. And that covers up our hole in the center, which is good. So that's our center. Now for this piece here, I will use tape. You could use glue, but I'm going to use tape when I find it. Don't you hate that when you lose, oh, there we go, what you're looking for. So you don't want anything to block the opening there, so you don't want any glue there. So I'm just going to pop some tape, or you could put glue along the edges. And around that edge too. Yep. And I'm just going to put a little bit just straight next to the hole. That's just going to keep anything I put in there from wobbling, because you could put money in there. You could fold up some bills and put that in there as a gift as well. So peel off your paper. If you have trouble peeling off the paper, just make sure it's pushed down well. So just give it a good rub. And just a sharp blade or something just poked in the side and rubbing it back and forth just peels it off from the edges. So you could use your, I use my snips, or you could use your pick a tool. And so I'm just going to push that and slide it so it comes together on the inside. So that's my little slot. Now let's finish up the decorating. So for the tag, I've got the different sections I'm putting on here. And I think I'm going to go with the Evening Evergreen because this the soft Succulent would not be seen very well with that background. So I think I'll go with the Evening Evergreen ribbon. And for this, I just need a little section because I'm going to just slide it in. And I like to do things with it still on the roll, so if that way I don't waste quite as much ribbon. I don't pull it all off in one go. So we're going to stick it through. And it's also easier to stick it through if you have an angled end. These holes are quite big, so it's not that difficult. It should not be that difficult to pull it through. And just make sure you do it in the correct order. And my little thank you tag. Okay. Alright, so let's see, how long do I want it? That looks like a good length there. So I will just snip that off. Yep. You can have nice sharp scissors when you're cutting ribbon. Okay, now I didn't tie this because I'm going to use a bit of twine to tie it. So have that in place there. And then I'm going to use some twine. Now we have our pack of Baker's Twine Essentials, and it comes with 5 different colors. Those are 4 of them there, and I'm going to use this one. Looks sort of like the Sahara sand color. And again, I'm going to do it with it still on the roll so I don't waste as much. And just tie that. Holding it in place. And this is how you can try not to waste it, because you tie your bow while it's still on there, and then you know how much to cut off for the end. And this is one bow I have to tie on camera. Sorry about that. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. Just loosen it up a bit and then tighten it a few times. There we go. That looks good enough. Snip off the end. There. So that's it there, and then you can just adjust it down if you need to. Alright, so there's a little tag there, which slips right in the hole. That should do. I'm not left-handed. The other one, I did this direction, so it's easier to put in. So I say. Come on, open up. There we go. Okay. That fits in there. And so I can angle it slightly. Looks good. Now, the rest of the decorating. So, for the front, I've got a couple scrap pieces. When I cut the length of this, I had a couple pieces left over. So, that would clash if I put the same color on there. But if I turn it over, I've got the soft succulent. That's the nice thing about the designer series paper, is you have different colors. So I was thinking I'll pop that there. And then this was a little bit left over, and I'll pop that in the center there before I put my leaf on. So for this here, I had a little bit of the cherry cobbler because it was too long and I cut a bit off. And then that is the back side of, I think, that DSP. And it just brings a little interest to that section. So I'm going to glue that down. And the reason I have the tag there is so when I put the rest on, I know what's going to be covered up. And I can visually see what fits better. So I'll just put a bit of glue. Again, I would probably use tear and tape because this is a nice little rectangle. But for the video, I'll do it that way. And because that was cut off from the end of one of the pieces, it's already the exact same width. So basically you just want something to be the same width. So that ties in a bit of the interest from that background. And then this little piece, just a bit of glue there. And then that brings us back to having the white on there. I think I'll go the other way. Add some red to this side. So you can use your little scraps of designer series paper to add little elements. And I think I did that crooked. I always seem to put things crooked. And then we're going to do the branch going that way, I think. Now I could turn the branch over and use the other side of it if I want. I'll just look at how it looks either way. I think I like it better that way. So with something like this, you might think, oh, it's going to get sticky with all the glue, but you don't have to glue the whole thing. Just put dots of glue. Yep, little dot of glue here, and just use the tip to help spread it out. Just a few dots. You don't have to do the whole thing. I'm just going to dot this up down here and then stick it on. So unfortunately you can't use something like tear and tape for this because it's too skinny. You could use some glue dots if you want it. Just depends on how secure you want it to be. I'm just putting a dot in each little leaf. If I get too much out when I do my dotting, I just spread it with the tip of the glue. Just gently spread a bit. Okay. And then just carefully pick it up on a part that's not glued and stick it down the way you want it, roughly the way you want it to be, and just move it into place before you press it down. Now, because there's so many little bits, and if I push on all of them, I might get really sticky fingers doing that. So that's where blocks come in handy. You can take a block and just press the block, and you can press it all down in one go. So no more sticky fingers. But you might see you have a bit of sticky on the block. But I did have a video explaining how to clean your blocks. The best way to clean them is actually with hand sanitizer. And I'd say most people in the world have hand sanitizer. So you just rub a bit on and it takes all those dark spots out, those sticky spots out. Okay, and so I'm going to do this part here. And I'm just going to eyeball where the placement's going to be. So I'll pop that back in. There we go. And looking at that, I'm going to put these guys on. And again, I could use either side of the, well, not either side of the silver, but either side of that. So I could have these going two different directions. That might be a bit more interesting, or overlap them. And I'm just going to have that coming down probably there. And again, just a few dots on the back, just in a few crucial spots. Because hopefully nobody's going to be trying to pull the thing apart, so you don't need to have it fully glued. Some people do go overboard gluing things, which that's fine if you want to. You just use up your glue a lot quicker. So just on the main dots. If you do get too much, make sure you spread it out, because otherwise it's going to ooze out underneath. So I'll pop that guy, I'd say right about there. And with these skinny pieces, you can actually move some of the edges of them to give it a different shape than it was originally. So just be careful when you're putting it down if you want to keep the same shape, but if you're okay with that, then just move some of the branches different ways. I'm not sure what this one is supposed to represent. I think it's supposed to, might even be mistletoe. Because I know mistletoe is like green branches with white berries. Which, if that's the case, it should probably be hanging upside down. But if anybody knows what it is, feel free to put it in the comments to tell me what it's supposed to be. I always just thought of it as some sort of berry. So I'm just setting it down, slightly offsetting it from the original so you can see both. And I'll get my block, like I said, to hold it down so I don't get too sticky. And then I just going to layer up my poinsettia. So remember, that's the background from the poinsettia dies, and this is a flower from the Pillowbox. So just a little in the center. And there we go. Just hold that place for a bit. I'm going to pop that up on dimensional. And I'm going to stick my ribbon down as well. Now, ribbons don't stick very well with liquid glue, so it's always best to use glue dots or tape, tear and tape or glue dots for your ribbons. So you stick, there's your glue dot there. You stick what you want to stick down onto the glue dot, give it a good press, and the glue dot sticks to the item. You see that? And then you just stick that in place. So I'm just going to slightly offset that. Hold it down for a second or two. Now I'll need a mini dimensional for my poinsettia. Pop that down. And that's going to show up quite nicely down here at the bottom. Just offset to the branches. My tag will fit in here. I don't know why I keep trying to do that left-handed. Come on, I know the opening's there. My original one's just fine. This one's being a bit difficult. There we go. So that tag also gives you a bit of a saying on the front of your card. So we're nearly done. Hopefully you're still with me. I'm just going to add some bling. So for my poinsettia, I need to add a pearl in the center to make it stand out. So I'll just take one of these pearls and pop it in the center of my poinsettia. And that picks with the white in the background. And then for my branch, I'm going to put some red on it. Now my original one, I colored my pearls with the cherry cobbler. But this one, I'm going to use the red gems when I find them. There they are. If you're wondering what I'm doing, we got this box years ago. It was a kit, and it had dividers that were for like months for the birthdays. But I've put my little gems in the edges, and so I store my gems and things in there. So I was just looking through my box there to find the gems. Now these are real red, and I know that's cherry cobbler, but it won't clash too much because the colors are similar. Now the reason I didn't do it here is because the background was cherry cobbler, and that would have made a big difference there, but there's not as much red in the background here. So I'll pop some of these gems on, and I think I'll just I'll pop a few of them just randomly. It's always good to do things in odd numbers. And so like 3s or 5s or 7s, things like that. So that's 4, and I'll do 5. I'll just, where should I put 5? Over here? Okay, yeah, we'll put that one there. Okay, so could carry on and put more on if I want. But that's enough for now. So that's the Red Rhinestone Basic Jewels. I will be listing all the products I used in the description below this video, so if you want to know any of the things that I used, have a look there. And if you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. Feel free to share it with other people. Tell everybody about it. So we use the Poinsettia Petals. We use the Wintry 3D embossing folder. We use the tailor-made tags. We use the poinsettia dies, as well as the Tidings of Christmas paper. And I used a little bit of foil on that one, and then that's got the retired paper there. So there's the two cards. This one we made in the video, and that one I made beforehand. And of course we used lots of different colors. So you can put a gift card in there. Slips in just fine. There we go. Hey, it worked. It is a bit noticeable in the backgrounds, especially if it's a different color. So it's up to you how you want to do that. You could slip a bit of money in there. But so it opens that way, and then you have your sentiment on the inside. So there you go. Even if you take the tag out and use it, it's still a lovely looking card on its own. And this shows you the left hand opening and the right hand opening. So I hope you enjoyed that. And as I said, I will list everything in the description below. So if you want to purchase anything, contact your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. If you're in New Zealand and don't already have a demonstrator, I'd be happy to be yours. My website is michellekritchley.stampinup.net. I also have a blog that I put things up on there. Sometimes I will be doing one next month showing a variety of different gift card holders that I've created. And as I said, the items here will be listed below. So thanks for watching and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.